It's fall.
It is fall.
It is fall, and that means that it is time to tune your broadheads. And I know you're looking at me crazy, but this is important. This is a big deal.
Yes, I see that at my house.
Yes. So, tuning your broadheads is one of the most frustrating things because you shoot great with your field points, and then you put a broadhead on, and you're 6 inches to the right or 6 inches to the left, or you're like, why doesn't it just go where my arrows go?
Yeah.
So you're like resighting in, you're retuning your bow. It's got to be perfect, and you're off just a little bit. It throws you way off down, and now your confidence that you had built up all year is shot.
Oh, yeah.
So it's kind of like
And the pressure's on because you need it ready now.
you have to you have to make the shot, and you have, if you've ever been deer hunting and you realize how much has to come together to even get a shot. Then if you make a bad shot, you feel terrible, and it's just like, okay, so you have a lot of pressure to get things tuned right, but when it happens, the confidence all comes back. So I think the same thing is true in relationships, because I think about the relationship between my field point and my broadhead. Okay, I want those two to be in the same. I want them to become one.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about whether it's marriage or a work relationship. You know, there's two individuals that are coming together for a singular purpose. So let's talk a little bit about admin and the role it plays in an officer's life.
Well, right, and we've talked before, most officers are union.
Okay.
Admin is not. They're employed by, the city, the county, the jurisdiction, whatever that is. So that automatically creates a divide because there's a difference. There's just a difference in pay structure, benefits, supports, hierarchy, all these different things, and they're operating kind of almost parallel to each other.
Yeah.
It seems at times they all have the same common goal, but they don't always agree or see, have those shared paths.
Well, and I think too, admin is trying, and they're working with one set of information. And patrol, for example, is working with another set of information, but they still have to work together. So when you have decisions being made that affect your life,
oh yeah,
so someone retires, and then you hear rumors on the street of, or rumors throughout the staff. It's like, okay, what are they going to do? Are they going to fill that position, or all this, the rumor mill goes just berserk.
Yes.
Because there can be issues about, well, it may upset the certain departments don't want to lose a sergeant, or they don't want to lose, so they're not going to make them available, or it just it starts to create stress for everybody involved. And if you're low enough on the totem pole, you just got to live with it and deal with it. So that can create a lot of stress. That's just one example.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many people talk about that. Even the difference of not only are they going to hire and fill that position, but are they going to seek one that's in-house or bring someone in externally? Are they going to, and I always say, like, do they pass the vibe check? But each department, each unit, each station, house, they all have their own mini culture.
Yeah.
And it's not just as easy as plucking one from one place and putting them in another. We have all these different, personalities and experiences, and you have the foundations that were created with it and trying to modernize, and and then when you have admin, you have the the demands of
The budget.
the budget and the people and the city and the board and and HR and all these things, and then you're patrol or a paramedic and whatever, and then it's well, this is my experience, this is where my hang up is with leadership, when they don't lead by example, or they're not good communicators, or they don't put forth the effort to connect.
Yeah. That starts to affect the culture in a big way, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
So, here's maybe something. Let's just do a little role play here. So, for example, you are a patrol officer, and I'll be admin, and
I already don't like you. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
So just think about, what are some of the things you feel when I don't communicate, when I don't listen, or I just kind of operate in my world and expect you to just follow, but then I reprimand you on something. I'm thinking of, you're out there doing your job the best you can, but I get some rules or some information that comes down to me that I gotta now put it on you, and it puts more restraints. It's like I don't trust you. I do, but I gotta do this, it's my job. So how would that make you feel? What are some of the emotions you would feel in that relationship at work, where I'm not listening and I'm not communicating?
Disrespected. Used.
Yeah.
Isolated. I would also say, angry, right? But
Yeah.
anger is a
Yeah.
shield emotion, so I would probably also be upset about the power dynamic. And I think that goes back to like disrespect and a lack of trust.
Yeah. So if you had to work in that environment for 7 years, how would that make you feel?
Exhausted.
Exhausted.
Right? And you lack motivation, you don't want to go to work, you don't want to. I think that's probably one of the things I hear so often, is when there's not a good relationship with leadership at any level, then it impacts morale and that motivation inside of that culture. Well, I don't want to work harder for you, because you're just going to pee on me when things roll down. You don't have my back. And I think that is something that I hear, especially in some places, is I don't feel like leadership has my back. So I'm doing the best that I can with the tools given to me, and I'm surely not going to be perfect. I'm not gonna say I make no mistakes, but when we're talking about law enforcement patrol, you are making split second judgment calls. No one else was there in your skin, in your mind, in your body, to gather all that sensory data, to make that decision. All they can do is trust them. But when you do the best that you can and you get in trouble or consequences or penalized,
just do your job. Okay, I'm doing my job, you just do your job.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
It's, or how many internal affairs, how many IAs come out of it because there's a complaint, because somebody thinks that they would have done it a different way. And I think sometimes it's also it is a way, it doesn't mean it's the only way either. So I think that, we could probably talk for many hours about the struggles between leadership and boots on the ground in all areas. And I know that we plan on in the future talking about how leadership and admin can try to bridge that gap.
Because I think that's part of it, really ultimately, admin does care. They those are great people, and they want to make a difference. I think they're in an environment that is really tough too.
For sure.
And, it's not about one side not doing enough and the other side is doing way too much, but it starts to feel like that. It starts to feel like admin's always getting thrown under the bus because, everyone else is always getting screwed over, and, you hear that a lot.
Yeah, or I hear you defending admin because that's who you are right now. I'm patrol, so I'm going to defend patrol
Right.
of, when admin feels things aren't going well and they're stressed, it rolls back on patrol. So now instead of talking to patrol of, hey, we've noticed an increase in these kind of things, what is your experience, what does this look like, they, from the second floor, come up with something that sounds great on paper, and then just push it out as a directive versus a conversation, an understanding. I mean, and that goes with really anything, right? I mean, we can apply that to our home if you work outside of law enforcement or military anymore, but that, I think it goes back to that communication, that disconnect.
So really, the relationships break down when there's not communication.
100%.
That's really where it comes down to. Because if you really knew how I felt, that I did care, and I really knew, and I guess, a lot of people in admin, they came from the ranks, right?
Most of them.
So it's like they remember what it was like on that side, but now they've got a whole nother set of stressors. And I think as that, it's part of that divide that was created, but communication builds a bridge. And it's like, okay, hey, we're two separate, but we have to come together to do one common goal that we deeply care about, and that is serve and protect our community. How are we going to do that really well together? Well, one of the things that I think agencies really push for is everybody in the agency knows that you're going to be at times dealing with people when they're not at their best, but treat them like you would treat your own family member, with dignity and respect. And then we come back inside, and internally we're not even treating each other with dignity and respect. It's almost easier sometimes to do it with a stranger than with someone you know really well.
Yes, that would definitely be the common theme.
Yeah.
I think you are right, and let's unpack that a little bit, because I think that can apply to work, school, home.
Where does our stress come from, right? It comes from work and home. And it's relationships.
Yes, a huge bulk of our stresses are relationships, whether it be misinterpreted expectations. We've talked a lot in the past about the narratives and the stories that we create in our head out of expectations without communicating and finding that balance. But that breakdown really is what corrodes. And so, to your point though, we are much more likely to come up to a new coworker or someone we haven't worked with before and communicate and put in that extra effort, and then cut corners with the ones that we work closest with or are closest to.
So let's talk communication strategies or tools a little bit. As far as, there's got to be some trust, there's got to be some vulnerability, but maybe speak into, when you think about tools for communication, what are some of the first things that come to your mind about how two people should communicate?
Well, respectfully, I think that is probably one of our hang-ups, is when one person shares their thoughts, ideas, feelings, whatever it is, the other person immediately kind of becomes defensive.
Mm.
It's an attack. It's
Yeah.
it's whatever, and a lot of times this is especially when we're close to that person because it's personal.
Yeah.
So we are not stepping outside of this is just how they're feeling and that's okay and we can get through it.
It's a personal attack on me.
Correct.
You're telling me how you feel, but I'm interpreting it that you're attacking me. Yeah.
Yeah, and at work, I think
That never happens at my house.
I don't believe you. It also never happens at my house. But when we talk about inside of departments, a perfect example would be two internal people go up for the same position.
Mm.
One gets it, one doesn't. Now one is overseeing the other.
Yeah.
There's going to be friction because, right, there are now unspoken things and feelings and emotions, all valid.
Yeah.
But now it's going to get in the way. Whereas if it was someone brand spanking new, it came in, we're kind of starting over from scratch.
Yeah, it's easier because you don't have all of the past, hang-ups and hurts and baggage that was there, even with the good and the bad. There's still, it's almost like, well, I know how they're going to respond, so I don't even need to say it. When you really don't know. But just, you go on history.
Yeah.
So you think you know. But it kind of creates a culture issue. It starts to become toxic there, doesn't it?
It does. Sometimes I like to joke with departments and call them the middle school. And I have even gone as far as laying out what the yearbook clicks would look like.
Oh, gotcha.
Because I think it actually shows a really good example. Like a good movie that our household likes, even the guys, is Mean Girls. Surprisingly, but that is it, right? When we're not treating each other with respect, we're putting expectations on others without sharing the why. Most people have no problem making a change and following a new directive if they understand the why. Not just being told you have to do this because I said so.
Yeah.
I mean, most of us probably got that when we were kids and it didn't make us feel good and it also didn't make us want to listen.
Yeah, totally. And some people, that's a bigger trigger than others.
For sure. Yeah. We're all, as adults, we're bringing all of our undealt with baggage from before.
So, communication with respect. What about with, there's so many miscommunications, and usually if you start talking through things, you realize, you know what, I was totally under the wrong impression, and I understand now there was a miscommunication. So that can really, having healthy conversations around that clear up those miscommunications. But that's why if you start and you engage in it respectfully, and the gaps that were created by the miscommunication, you say, you know what, I own that gap. I did not mean that. I'm sorry. So we create gaps.
Ooh, so now you're talking about accountability and ownership. Right?
Just saying, you know what, I can see how that really was hurtful. I didn't mean it that way. I'll own that gap. And then there's this dynamic that comes in. We have to decide in that moment, am I going to let that go, or is that person got to pay for that? And that is a huge thing. So in my world, we talk about forgiveness. And forgiveness is deciding that someone who's wronged you doesn't have to pay. Well, who's going to pay then? Because right now I'm paying. Well, that's the thing. When you don't extend forgiveness, then you actually pay. And um, deciding, we get wronged all the time. There's times when you wrong your best friend and you didn't even mean to, or you wrong people, you wrong your kids, or you wrong, your spouse, or you weren't even intending to do that.
Yeah.
It just happened, right? So I think practicing some of these tools, relationships require forgiveness. We just have to be committed to that, because they're never going to be perfect. They're never going to be without miscommunication. So, um,
But I think the piece that goes hand in hand with forgiveness is that ownership
the,
piece.
the ownership.
The one party has to take ownership in order for the forgiveness to start.
In
or
really
or both. Yeah,
right?
both need to take ownership. So thinking, going back to like work and admin or leadership, I think of how many times, a leader will text a patrol officer saying, "Hey, I need to meet you in my office." No context.
Yeah.
Makes your butthole pucker.
Yeah. Is this gonna be
your heart drops to
yeah.
your stomach, right?
Is this a good thing, bad thing? What is this gonna be?
Yeah, I don't know what I'm walking into. I don't know about you, but I don't like walking into meetings that I don't know the topic.
Yeah. No.
Just give me a heads up. But also, was a text the most efficient way? Could you have called and said, "Hey, how are you today?
Yeah.
How's shift going?
Mm-hmm.
When you have a moment, I would like to talk to you about, a complaint that came in yesterday. I just want to make sure that we can touch base today during shift."
Yeah.
Right? That is way different than
Hey, I need to see you in my office.
yeah, that's right. That's terrifying.
So with that right there,
Mm-hmm.
it's how we say things
Mm-hmm.
can make a huge difference. And we hear that all the time. It's not what you say, it's how you said it, right?
And if you
I
do,
hear that all the time.
I agree with you. But I think yes, but the more powerful thing is when you mess up, taking that ownership versus just brushing it off, because then it creates those emotions and resentment.
Yeah, like
and
if I'm
fear.
deflecting it and say that's not that big a deal, you're overreacting, or you're just I didn't have time. That's what I got this. That's what I had time to write you.
Yeah.
So there's a deflect and a discount
Mm-hmm.
that we can bring to the situation.
Yeah.
Or we can say, you know what, that was a gap. I'm gonna own that gap. Sorry about that. Here's what I really, from now on, I'll communicate this differently. That accountability and ownership is totally different, because you can smell a fake.
Oh yes.
In that deflect, you really don't mean it. Oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry. Or you're really, discounting how I'm feeling, or that was a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
So that becomes like a strategy that a lot of people, I happen to notice, use, because it's what I do. I discount or deflect because it's probably a coping mechanism about I'm actually feeling maybe attacked a little bit, just because it's my own trigger, or my just maybe as I grew up, when you messed up, it was a big deal. So it's like, there's no mess here. There's just let it go. Just let it go.
Sure.
So I think it's part of me understanding and growing. But I see people do that all the time, where they discount and deflect rather than taking ownership. Well, that makes it hard for there to be a genuine conversation, a genuine relationship.
Yeah, it really just shuts it down.
Mm.
And it becomes really one-sided, or it ends up becoming no-sided.
Yeah.
And that power differential really starts to show. And I think we have still a very toxic masculine culture of I have to be right, I can't be vulnerable, being tough, and all of these things, which I definitely understand those components, but for anybody, being a good leader means leading by example. If I want those that I support to be able to own their mistakes and problem solve, I sure as heck better be able to
Yeah.
do the same.
Absolutely. So I think there's a miscommunication about, well, maybe a misnomer about toxic masculinity. I think it's a loaded word, and masculinity in general is a loaded word. When I think of the best men in my life, they're very masculine, but they are also very genuine and gentle. But they are they do very hard things. So I think toxic is when we run from things,
Yes.
when we ignore things, when we run away. And I shared this earlier, but it's part of that process of maturing.
Mm-hmm.
It almost might be better to call it mature masculinity. That might be a better way to describe it, because boys do what they want to do, men do what they should do. And there's a maturity, because when you have a really good man leading, everyone around them gets better.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
You see that all the time.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So the challenge is the maturity part.
Right.
And understanding, how do I mature in wherever I'm at, men or women, and what if you're in a position where you realize either your admin is really stressed out or they're not leading well? Could you lead up? Is it possible? Well, that really takes some maturity. You would probably have to do some work in your life. Say, okay, how do I need to grow and learn? I see that there's some struggles and some strain, and there's not good communication coming. So I'm going to lead up from where I'm at.
Yep.
That's tough to take that on when you really are exhausted and you don't care and you just want to get through the day. So,
absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
So some of us find us already at that place, and some of us are like, I got to make a change. Well, what change would you do? You can run away and go do a different career. Sometimes it's time for that. Sometimes you can say, okay, I've got to go talk to them and learn more about the situation. I got to have a hard conversation. You say it all the time. When you think about having the hard conversations, when is the right time to have a hard conversation?
I think that a lot of times hard conversations are best had after a sleep. We should pause and gather our thoughts and our emotions, because usually the hard conversation, or the need for a hard conversation, is prompted by some sort of, right, like discord or like there's something that happens in that to prompt it. But if we go right from that to the conversation,
it's still pretty raw. It's still pretty emotionally charged, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. So taking a step back, whether it's waiting an hour, gathering our thoughts, writing it down, playing it out in our head, doing some fact checking, even walking in with some, we've talked before, going back to the Matrix, when something happens, we create this own story in our head that may not be.
Could be some lies in there.
Yeah, because we're telling ourselves lies to justify ourselves, to feed our ego, to not feel bad about ourselves, to whatever. But those are fueling the feelings that are going to go into that conversation and have it turn sideways.
So here's one of the things that just kind of has been popping up in my life off and on for years, but specifically lately.
Okay.
And that is about having a group of people that you have a close unity with, and how valuable it is for growth when you have some unity with some people going in the same direction.
Yeah.
It multiplies your effort. It's like you're getting better and you're helping them, but it is just something unique. I think we're herd animals and we're better in the herd. We just do better. But when we're not, I mean, you have horses,
Yes.
and you think about the dynamics in your herd.
Oh yeah, it can change just from adding or removing one.
There's a whole pecking order that's got to be reestablished.
Yeah, all has to change.
Yeah. Now, you had a sad event about a month ago. One of your horses passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. His name was Captain.
Yes.
Tell me about the dynamics of Captain in your herd.
Sure. So I think it's really interesting because he was almost 30. He would have been 30 this week, actually. And there was a time and place when he was the herd leader. He was...
Because he's a big horse.
Yes. You know, in his prime, he was all of 2,000 pounds.
Yeah, he's a massive,
Is a big boy.
Yeah, Belgian or Percheron?
Percheron.
So he was bigger than all the others. Yeah.
Yes, he was bigger in size, super kind, loving heart. But he was clear, I'm in charge. And then as he was getting older and we added some younger horses to the herd, other horses kind of came up and challenged him. And it's very interesting because there was a very clear change in his mood and personality when he was clearly no longer the leader.
Yeah.
That's hard to right? Lose your throne, lose your power.
That's a scary thought.
Whether I was talking about using our superpowers for good or evil, but no matter what kind of a leader you are, to lose your status is devastating.
That's an identity that's going away.
Absolutely. So he went through kind of that, and then when he passed, I did a ton of research before because I knew it was coming, and I made the decision to leave him in the pasture for the day. So all the other horses were in the barn, and I let them out, and his best buddy went up first with our calmest, probably lowest on the pecking order female at his back, and she kind of protected him while he went and said goodbye. And then the 4 probably most dominant personalities in the herd of 10, so for context for everyone, stood there all in a line facing this exchange. She went up and said goodbye, and then the rest of the herd came in a line and all said their goodbyes. And then they let the best buddy kind of linger on and off. Some of the others lingered on and off. But then there has been now an entire shift in who is buddies. His buddy has linked up with that female that supported him, whereas he never really hung out with females before. And then the one that she would always hang out with has kind of switched. It was just very interesting, and it wasn't violent, it wasn't aggressive, it was all just a shift, and they all seem to understand there is a change and we don't leave anybody behind.
Yeah.
Because with him being gone, one of my fears was the best buddy was going to be alone,
right, and
no one was going to kind of take him under his wing because his eyesight is kind of going. So he's also an older horse. So my fear was that, and they managed their own. And I think we don't have enough of that I mean, we can talk about that at home, but I think talking about the workplace, we don't have enough of that in our teams,
Yeah.
in the workplace, whether it be a shift, a department, a special team, a cohort, whatever that is. It continues to be more of a competition
Yeah.
amongst coworkers versus we are only as strong as our weakest link.
So you think about that. Somebody in the department loses a parent,
Mm.
or somebody in the department retires.
Mm-hmm.
Are we checking on them? Are we just thinking about them and letting them know, hey, I'm thinking about you? Just a simple touch, that engagement, a little bit of engagement goes a long way. It doesn't have to be this massive, incredible, production.
Yeah,
Just
we don't need
a
cards and flowers and
simple
meal trains.
engagement
Right.
is incredibly powerful, and we
Yes.
learn that from a herd of horses. Isn't that
Yes.
crazy? Yeah.
And when it comes to humans, I'm gonna add it a step further because, most of us have probably suffered some sort of a loss in our life, and I'll just use the example of a funeral, right? You have a death in your family. That first week or two, I mean, you have casseroles coming out of your ears,
Yeah,
there's flowers, there's text messages, there's almost this extreme overwhelm of support. But after that funeral, everyone else's life goes back to normal,
And yours doesn't.
and you're figuring out what normal is.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes even those who might be listening or watching going, I am that person that checks in. Like, I always want to make that connection. Oh, I'm so sorry, your dog had surgery. How are you doing? Or, congrats on retirement. How's it going? And, well, it's been 2 days, right? But are we checking in with them in a month?
Yeah.
In 3 months? Are we remembering that anniversary of, and this could be a critical incident, a death in the family, could be, so many different things, because our brains like patterns. So even if it doesn't register to the person who went through it, oh, October 2nd is coming around, that's when this happened. Our brain is going, oh, it's getting cooler, the leaves are changing, the light during the day looks similar to what it was then, and our brain is already reminding us of that and looking for the patterns for something to happen again.
Yeah.
So sometimes we can start to feel those feelings
Anxiety.
already.
Yeah. So let's go back to patterns. One thing that I do when I have a friend or someone, colleague, that goes through a loss, a death in their family, or a loss or a critical incident or something, I'll go in my phone a month or 3 months or 6 months, even a year, and I'll put a couple of those dates to check in with so and so.
Me too.
It's a simple little thing you can do, but it helps you care well, because you can't remember all. You just, I gotta, you know what? Oh man, this is what's on their day today. So I think that's an easy thing we can do when we really genuinely care about other people. So that's good.
Well, and there's a fear, right? Because I think we have a fear that if we bring it up and check on them, that it's going to trigger something bad. Maybe, but it's okay for them to feel their feelings. If saying, hey, I know the anniversary of your mom's death is coming up.
How you doing?
I'm just thinking about you.
Yeah.
They might go, I didn't even realize it, and you're right. Oh man, that is kind of a bummer. Can't believe it's been a year already, right? They're not going to be more or less in feelings because you brought it up, because once they realize it on their own, they're going to have the feelings. But now, wow, you remembered. I was important enough to you.
That is far more valuable.
Absolutely.
Than the fear of. So it's operating not in fear.
Mm-hmm.
It's operating out of an abundance place where you say, you know what, I'm gonna care with an abundance, not be, kind of handcuffed or petrified about, I don't want want to say the wrong thing or do. No, just engage and just, hey, I'm thinking about you. I know it's probably a tough time of year for you, and I'm here if you need anything. Just those simple little things can be amazing. So easy trigger. So let's go back to patterns and how our brain it operates and it looks for patterns. Talk to us a little bit about that.
I actually want to save that for next week because I think we could talk
That's a big one
on it, or for next cast, because I think you and I are going to be able to talk, and there's a lot of depth to that. But let's bring it back to admin and, boots on the ground, finding this common ground. And I think this is where it is. If admin is showing care and concern for them, and they are showing care and concern for admin, this is how we bridge the gap. So is it a text message, an email, a phone call, an in-person? Am I going to say what I mean with the right tone and inflection?
Yeah.
And if I say it and I can tell by the look on their face that they didn't receive it the way I meant it, am I ready to own that and say, hang on, let me rephrase that, or what did you hear?
Yeah. So I think, what did you hear is a really powerful statement. I think the other thing in those hard conversations, or those necessary conversations, are the story I'm writing right now, and I don't know if it's true, but it's just where I'm going, but help me clarify that, fill in the spots. So I need to talk with you because I'm writing a story and I don't want to get it wrong. So here's what I'm thinking you meant by that. And that helps people say, oh, I did not mean to, that's not where I was going at all with that. But that's an easy way to enter into the conversation with people that you really deeply care about, that it's kind of hard to engage, like those, say, you know what, I'm writing a story right now, and I just need you to speak into it, because I think I'm off base somewhere where I don't know. And it just it makes it easier to enter into the conversation.
Yeah, like using the example of admin puts out a new policy, the patrol officer gets, talked to because admin feels like they're intentionally not following the policy. While instead of being like, hey, why aren't you doing what I said? This is the policy, we emailed it out, why can't you follow this? Whoa, coming in hot, right? But that's often the language and the message. Instead of going, hey, I wanted to touch base with you, I know we rolled out the policy, I wanted to see if you had any questions about it.
Yeah.
Or if you had any feedback on it. It doesn't mean that the policy needs to change, but it's starting the conversation for both sides to understand each other, because 99% of the time, people are not following direction intentionally. It is typically out of a lack of understanding and connection, and not even necessarily human connection, but I don't understand and connect the dots as to how this, right? Yep, going back to I don't know the why. If, and I think something that the boots on the ground can do is, if you receive a policy or you receive information and you aren't quite sure, or you have an idea, but again, we're making that story in our head that may be accurate or may not be, is a double check. Hey Erin, can I have 5 minutes of your time? I received the email with the new policy. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding it correctly.
Yeah. That fills in the gaps. It fills in the dots, and I think that's such a valuable thing. And as you're talking about that, I'm putting myself in those shoes and I'm going, but pride. What is the deal with pride?
I don't know, it drives me nuts.
Right?
I said it just drives me nuts.
It's like, why is it such a big issue not look bad,
Yes.
to be right, to
Mhm.
is it because we're always competing with everybody around us? Is that a part of it? Or?
That is. We also want to be liked and seen as competent by everyone. So if I'm asking a question, it probably means I have doubt, or I'm weaker, or I don't know what I'm talking about. So when I do trainings, when I'm involved in trainings, when I'm in any kind of that like leadership education role at all, I always make sure to give credit and praise the people who do ask questions, right? Because we debrief something, we go over a new procedure, whatever that looks like, and then we say, does anybody have any questions? When somebody asks a question, and this actually just happened yesterday at a training, and I made a point to just be like, I am so impressed with you. You were in front of 30 of your peers from different departments. You asked a question that other people were probably thinking, and instead of not asking, you just said, and he was amazing with it. He said, I'm wondering if I could get some clarification because this was my perception and I think it might be off. Wow.
Yeah.
And
some maturity.
not a single person who has done good growth out of that group looked at him and thought, what an idiot.
No.
Everyone went,
Like, oh, I'm glad you asked that.
yeah, either I'm so glad that you asked that, or wow, look at you. Like, that takes strength.
Yeah.
And
That's
bravery and courage.
It's maturity. That's part of what we've been talking about is so this whole thing is if we dig our heels in, regardless of what side you're on, and you refuse to grow, eventually you will go away because that's the principle.
Yeah.
Any one of us, if we refuse to grow, we will go, and we'll miss out on opportunity. So the key is try to create good soil and around you make the people better, and just what your culture is. It's easy to slide into the toxic part of it, but in archery we have kind of an understanding when you're competing at any level from elementary school and up to the Olympics, there's one, I can't say it's unwritten because it is written, but it's an understanding of the culture of archery. Each competitor protects the field. So if I was gonna call an arrow in for you that really wasn't in, you'd say, hey, that's out, you gotta call it out. And it's your arrow. You have to protect the integrity, the culture of the field by just owning the truth and owning and protecting that culture. So comes back to both sides and all involved being committed to protecting the field, because very few people in the community understand what's going on and the dynamics you're all having to live in and go through, and they take it for granted. But you inside together can protect the field and protect the culture.
Absolutely, because if we don't take that ownership and accountability, it just turns toxic. Because we're going to talk about it later, but brains and people like patterns. So if the pattern becomes toxic, it all becomes toxic.
That's what we expect and that's what we look for. Yeah. Well, let's cut it off there and we'll hit patterns next time.
Sounds good.